Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this heart square here. So you can see the heart made in the middle with bobbles. You can use this square for whatever you would like. You can make up multiple of them and do a big blanket. You can use it as a dishcloth or a hot pad, whatever you would like to use it for. So my square at this point is measuring quite small. It's measuring about 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. I did use a 5mm crochet hook for my square, but I crochet quite tight. So just keep in mind that if you use the same hook size as me, it's likely that your square will end up a little bit bigger. But do keep in mind, if you'd like a larger square, just use a larger hook size. And if you'd like a smaller square, feel free to use a smaller hook size. So the yarn that I used, I have some here. It's this Capri Eco Cotton yarn. It's a medium 4-weight yarn. This one is 85% recycled cotton and 15% polyester. If you do want to make this into a washcloth or a dish rag or a hot pad, I recommend using a 100% cotton yarn. But you can use any yarn that you would like, just depending on what it is you want to use it for. You could even use a larger yarn with a larger hook. Again, it's completely up to you. You're also going to need a needle to sew in your ends and a pair of scissors. I'll take a moment and ask if you wouldn't mind subscribing. It's greatly appreciated. And also liking this video if you find this tutorial helpful. But otherwise, let's get into making this heart square. So to get started, we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook. And I'm going to chain 26. So 1, 2, 3. And once you have your chain ready to go, we're going to start by single crocheting into the second chain from the hook. So remember that loop on your hook doesn't count as anything. Count back 2. 1 and 2, and we're going to do our first single crochet into that second chain. So to do a single crochet, we insert our hook into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through those 2 loops on your hook. And that's a single crochet. So for row 1, we're just going to single crochet into each chain all the way across. All right, I'm working my final single crochet of row 1. And you should have 25 single crochets across at this point. And we're going to chain 1, and that chain 1 does not count as anything, and turn our work. And for row 2, we're going to go right back into that first stitch and do a single crochet. And again, we're going to single crochet into each stitch all the way across. And coming to the final stitch of row 2, don't get confused with that chain that we skipped at the beginning. Just look for that final V and do your final single crochet of round 2 into that stitch. Again, we're going to chain 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and turn our work. And I'm going to complete 2 more rows of 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. So going right back into that first stitch with our first single crochet, working the single crochets across. At the end of row 3 here, we'll chain 1, turn our work, and work 1 more row of 1 single crochet into each stitch across. So I'm going to come back at the end of row 4 after I have my 4 rows total of single crochets. I just finished my final single crochet of row 4. I still have my 25 stitches across and will each row for the remainder of the pattern. So I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and for row 5 I'm going to single crochet into the first 12 stitches. And that will bring me to the center stitch of the row, or the 13th stitch. So go ahead and do a single crochet into the first 12 stitches, and into that next stitch, or the 13th stitch, we're going to do our first bobble, which will be the bottom point of the heart. So to do a bobble, we're going to yarn over, go into that next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through those first 2 loops on our hook. And we're going to do what we just did 4 times total. So that was the first. Again, we yarn over, go back into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops on our hook. That was the second time. Yarn over, back into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on our hook. That was the third time, so we do that one more time. Yarn over, back into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops on our hook. And that was the 4th and final time. At this point, you should have 5 loops on your hook. We're going to yarn over and go through all 5 of those loops. And at this point, I give the working yarn just a little tug just to tighten that bobble stitch, and we're going to single crochet into the very next stitch. And you can see by single crocheting into that next stitch, that's actually going to push the bobble onto the other side where you can see it really good. So just like we had 12 single crochets on this side, we're also going to have 12 single crochets on this side. So that was our first. We're just going to single crochet into each stitch for the remainder of the row, and make sure that that works out to 12 single crochets on this side as well. So at this point, we have our 12 single crochets on each side and our bobble in the center. So we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and going on to the next row here, it's just going to be 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. I'll come back on when I reach my bobble and just let you know how I work over that stitch. All right, I've just about reached my bobble here. So we'll have the single crochet to the right of that bobble. And then we're going to single crochet into the bobble itself. So if you turn the work towards you, you'll see the V at the very top. So sometimes it ends up getting a little bit tucked behind, so it can be difficult to see, but just give it a turn. You'll see the V right at the top of that bobble, and we're going to single crochet underneath that V, or at the top of that bobble, and then again into the single crochet right to the left of that bobble, and we'll finish single crocheting into each stitch all the way across for the remainder of the row. And we'll finish the row by chaining 1 and turning our work. And row 7 is going to be another row that has the bobbles. So we'll single crochet into the first 10 stitches, and into that next stitch, or the 11th stitch, we're going to do our first of the 2 bobbles of row 7. So again, to do a bobble, we yarn over, go into that next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. You want to do that 4 times total. The second time, yarn over into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. That was the second time, yarn over into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops on your hook. That was the third time, and the fourth and last time, yarn over into that same stitch. It can get a little bit squishy. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops on your hook. When you have the 5 loops on your hook, we yarn over and go through all 5 of those loops. And again, I like to give my working yarn just a little bit of a tug. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So jumping to this very next one, we'll single crochet into that stitch, and to the next 2 until we have our 3 single crochets in a row. And then we're going to do our second of the 2 bobbles. So working right into that next stitch, we do another bobble. Three, and the 4th and final time. Yarn over, pull through all 5 of those loops, and give your working yarn a little tug. And then we're going to single crochet across, and again, like we started with the 10 single crochets, it should be that we have 10 single crochets across on this side. And we'll finish row 7 by chaining 1 and turning our work. And for row 8, again, it's just going to be a single crochet into each stitch all the way across. Again, when you reach those bobbles, you can just kind of turn, find that V, and that's where you do your single crochet. And just at the end of the row, you can count and make sure you still have your 25 single crochets across. And we'll finish the row by chaining 1 and turning our work. And we're going to do another bobble row. So we're going to start by single crocheting into the first 8 stitches. And we're going to do our first of the 2 bobbles of this row into the next stitch, or the 9th stitch. Give that working yarn a tug, and then we're going to single crochet into the next 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 more. That's 7 single crochets in a row, and then we're going to do our second of the 2 bobbles into the next stitch. Again, you should have 8 single crochets to do on this side. So just work 1 single crochet into each stitch across on this side. And after completing the final single crochet of row 9, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and again for row 10, we're going to do a single crochet across row. So just 1 single crochet into each stitch across, and you can see that heart slowly building up. And we'll finish row 10 by chaining 1 and turning our work. And for row 11, we're going to do another bobble row. So you can see we're alternating between those single crochet across rows and the rows with the bobbles. So for row 11, we're going to single crochet into the first 6 stitches and do our first bobble into the next stitch. Give that working yarn a tug, and then we're going to single crochet into the next 11 stitches. So we'll have 11 single crochets in a row here. And I'll come back on when I have those stitches done, and we'll bobble into the next stitch. And then I'm going to single crochet into each of the remaining stitches on this side. And I'm also going to go ahead and complete the next row off camera as well, because remember we just did a bobble row. Once we complete these single crochets on this side, we know that then we're going to go on to a single crochet across row. So after I complete the final single crochet of this row, I'm going to chain one, turn my work, and for row 12, I'm just going to do one single crochet into each stitch all the way across, and after I've completed that, I'll come back on. All right, I just finished my final single crochet of row 12, and we're going to go on to a bobble row, and it will be the final row where we're making these bobbles on the side of the heart work out this way. So we're going to chain one, turn our work, and on this row, if you've noticed at the beginning, we're reducing the number of single crochets prior to that first bobble by 2. So on this row, we're going to single crochet into the first 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we'll do our bobble into the next stitch. And then we're in between the bobbles, we're increasing the number of single crochets between the two by 4. So on this row, we're going to do 15 single crochets in a row before doing our next bobble. So I'm going to do the next 15 single crochets here, and then I'll come back on. And again, we'll do our bobble into the next stitch. And single crochet into each stitch across until the end of the row. Again, you should have 4 on this side, just like you started with the 4. So I'm going to single crochet into these final 4 stitches. And again, I'm going to, after completing this final one, chain one, turn my work, and do 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. And we'll finish up row 14 by chaining 1 and turning our work. And for row 15, we're going to single crochet into the first 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to bobble into the next stitch. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and then we're going to bobble into the next stitch, and this bobble will be the second of 3 bobbles on this row. And then again, we single crochet into the next 7 stitches. And bobble into the next stitch. And after that third bobble of the row, you should have 4 stitches remaining that we're going to single crochet into. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll chain 1 and turn our work, and that is row 15 complete. So you can see we've made kind of the center of the heart that we're going to work up and around and connect to this side. So for the next row, it's just 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across, and we'll finish up the row by chaining 1 and turning our work. And for row 17, again, we're going to single crochet into the first 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we'll do our bobble into the next stitch. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we'll bobble into the next stitch. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. And bobble into the next stitch. And single crochet into the next 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and bobble into the next stitch. And again, you should have, after completing this final bobble of the row, you should have 4 stitches remaining that we're going to single crochet into. And again, we'll finish the row by chaining one and turning our work. And now we're going to do another row of 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. And at the end of the row, we'll chain one and turn our work. And for row 19, we're going to single crochet into the first 6 stitches and then do a bobble in the next stitch. And after that, I'll come back on. And after that bobble, we're going to single crochet into the next stitch and do another bobble into the next stitch. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. And then we're going to do a bobble into the next stitch. And single crochet into the next stitch. And bobble into the next stitch. And then you should have 6 stitches remaining to single crochet into. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that. I'll chain one, turn my work, and do another row of just 1 single crochet into each stitch across. So I just finished up my row of single crochets, and you can see the heart shape complete. So you remember at the beginning we had 4 rows of single crochets prior to starting the bottom point of the heart. So we want the 4 total rows above it, just so it looks the same on top and bottom of the heart. So we just did our first row of single crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3 more rows of single crochets off camera. So I'll finish up the row by chaining one, turning my work, doing my row of single crochet across, chaining one, turning my work, and so on till I have the 3 additional rows of single crochets, or 4 total if you include the row we just did. So I'll see you in just a moment. All right, I just finished up my 3rd row of those single crochets, or the 4th row total after that final row of bobbles. So at this point you can see we ended up on the wrong side of the work. We're going to chain one and turn our work. You could fasten off at this point and be done, but I'm going to go around the piece and clean up all of the edges with a round of single crochets. So going right into that first stitch, we're going to single crochet, and I'm going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across this top row, and when I get to this corner I'll come back on. And into this final stitch here, or the stitch in the corner, we're going to do 3 single crochets all into the same stitch. So 1, going back into that same stitch, 2, and 3. And that's going to help us kind of turn the corner, because we're going to work down this uneven edge at this point. So you can see there's not specific stitches to go into here, but because we use single crochets, it does leave some nice openings to work those stitches into, but as long as you're evenly spacing them out, planning for 1 single crochet per row. So at the end of each row here, we'll do a single crochet. And again, you can see if you kind of pull apart the work, you see those nice openings open up. So jumping to that next row, single crochet, and we're just going to work that all the way down this edge, again planning for 1 single crochet per row, and I'll come back on at this corner. All right, I've just about reached this corner. I'm going to do my final single crochet, and I've reached the corner. So again, into this corner stitch, which is actually that beginning chain, we're going to do 3 single crochets into that corner stitch. So 1, 2, and 3. And again, we'll turn our work and work our 1 single crochet into each stitch across this bottom edge. And this is actually the beginning chain, like I just mentioned, so it's a lot easier because there's those specific stitches to put your single crochets in. So I'm going to work single crochets along this bottom edge here. Again, when I get to this corner, I'm going to do my 3 single crochets into that corner, and then I'm going to work up this edge. Again, just evenly spacing the single crochets. It should match the number of single crochets you have on the opposite side here, and I will work over this tail as I work up this edge, just so I don't have to sew it in later. So once I make it up here, so again, I'll work along this bottom edge, 3 single crochets in the corner, and then up this edge. And once I get back close to this corner where I started, I'll come back on. All right, I'm just about back at this corner here, doing my final single crochet, and then I've reached the corner here where that first single crochet of the top row when we started cleaning up the edges is in. So into that same space that that first single crochet is in, we're going to do 2 more. So we have 3 total in this corner. And then we're going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet when we started the round of single crochets or cleaning up those edges. And I'm going to fasten off at this point. So I'm going to chain 1, cut my yarn, pull that yarn through, and pull tight. And you can see that that made those edges look really nice and clean. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and sew in any remaining ends. I did work over top of this one, so I'll just give it a little tug and cut it close to the work and stretch it out. So that's all hidden, but I'm going to go ahead and sew in this end, and then we'll look at our heart square together. I got my ends sewn in and we're all complete. So you can use this square for anything that you would like. I hope you love how yours turned out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!